It was my birthday. She smiled and handed me a tablet, said, "Open it later, Dad." 11 days passed, then the police knocked, not for me, for her. As they took her away, she looked back once and said, "You need to check the tablet now." My hands started shaking. "My name is Marcus Hale. I'm 61 years old. I live in Brookhaven." What I found on that tablet destroyed the life I thought I knew. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments, where are you listening from? I didn't open the tablet on my birthday. That part still bothers me. She handed it to me wrapped in thin paper, smiling the way she did when she was hiding nerves. Not excited, not playful, careful. "Open it later, Dad," she said. I laughed and told her she didn't have to buy me anything. She insisted, said it was already set up, that I'd like it more when I had time. So I set it on the counter and forgot about it. Birthdays blur when you're past 60. Cake, calls, a few quiet hours pretending you're not counting what's behind you more than what's ahead. She stayed for dinner. We talked about work, about the weather, about nothing important. She didn't touch her phone once, which was unusual. When she left, she hugged me longer than normal. That should have been my first warning. The tablet stayed in its box for days. I meant to open it. I really did. But life has a way of convincing you there's always tomorrow. I had errands. Appointments, a leaking faucet that took longer than it should have. 11 days passed. On the 12th, the knock came. It was just after noon. Loud, official. I looked through the window and saw 2 uniforms standing on my porch. My heart dropped before I even opened the door. "Marcus Hale," one of them asked. "Yes, we need to speak with your daughter." I felt a strange rush of relief. Not me, then confusion. "She's not here," I said. "Is something wrong?" They exchanged a glance. The older one spoke again. "We'll wait." They didn't have to wait long. She pulled into the driveway less than a minute later, like she'd known. She stepped out of her car slowly. No surprise on her face, just resolve. "Dad," she said quietly. I stepped between her and the officers without thinking. "What's going on?" The younger officer gently moved to the side. "Sir, please," they told her she was under arrest. Used words like questioning and procedure, but the handcuffs told the truth. I started talking. Fast, too fast, asking questions no one answered. She didn't resist, she didn't cry. As they guided her toward the car, she turned her head. "Dad," she said, "you need to check the tablet now." Then the door closed, and she was gone. I stood there alone, the echo of that sentence rattling around my chest. The house felt wrong after they left, too quiet, like something had been removed that held the place together. I went inside and stared at the counter. The tablet, still sealed. My hands shook as I picked it up. I sat at the kitchen table and peeled away the plastic like I was afraid it might explode. It powered on instantly. No lock screen, just a single folder, labeled with today's date. I didn't open it, not yet. Because a part of me already knew, whatever was on that screen was why the police came. I needed to understand everything before I touched it. I thought back over the last year. She'd changed slowly. Started keeping distance, canceling visits, saying she was busy in ways that felt rehearsed. She stopped asking for advice, stopped venting, stopped complaining. I thought that meant she was doing better. I was wrong. I sat there for almost an hour before I finally tapped the folder. Inside were files, dozens of them, videos, audio recordings, documents. All neatly organized. The first video auto-played. It was shaky, filmed from a pocket maybe. A voice filled the room, not hers, angry, controlled, threatening. I paused it immediately, my heart pounding. I stood up and paced. This wasn't a gift. This was a handoff. She didn't give me the tablet because it was thoughtful. She gave it to me because she was running out of time. I sat back down and pressed play again. The video showed a room I didn't recognize. Someone off-screen was yelling, accusing her of things that didn't make sense. Gaslighting, pressuring, making demands. She kept saying, "I understand," over and over like a shield. The video ended with a door slamming. I clicked the next file, an audio recording, her voice this time, quiet, controlled, speaking like she was reading from a script. "If anything happens to me, this tablet contains everything." My chest tightened. I skipped ahead, hands moving on their own now. There were timestamps, dates going back months. Incidents I knew nothing about, people I'd never met, and then something worse. A document, a formal statement, signed, her name at the bottom. I stopped breathing. It wasn't a confession. It was a report, detailed, calm, methodical, names, places, actions, evidence. She hadn't been hiding. She'd been building a case. I finally understood why she'd been so careful. Why did she distance herself? Why hadn't he told me? Because telling me would have put me in danger. Because if anyone knew I had this tablet before the right moment, the doorbell rang again. I flinched. I didn't answer this time. I stood in the kitchen, tablet clutched to my chest, listening to the sound echo through the house. For the first time since the police took her away, the fear shifted. It wasn't just for her anymore. It was for me. Because whatever she'd uncovered, whatever she'd documented, it was big enough that she'd planned for this, big enough that she trusted me with it. And big enough that now, whether I wanted to or not, I was part of it. I didn't answer the door. I stood there in the kitchen, the tablet pressed against my chest, listening to the bell ring again. Whoever it was didn't knock. They waited. That felt worse. When the ringing stopped, I exhaled slowly and locked every door in the house. I went back to the table and opened the tablet again. This time I didn't flinch. The files were arranged like a timeline. Dates, short labels, clean, intentional. She hadn't panicked when she made this. She deplanned it. I opened a folder from 3 months earlier. Another video. This one showed her sitting in a car, parked somewhere unfamiliar. Streetlights flickered through the windshield. "If you're seeing this," she said, eyes fixed on the camera, "then they finally made a move." She swallowed. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you dragged into it before it was safe." My throat tightened. "I found something I wasn't supposed to find," she continued. "And when I tried to walk away, they didn't let me." I paused the video. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. I muted it and kept watching. She explained everything slowly, clearly. How it started as a side job, consulting, data organization, nothing illegal on the surface. Then the patterns didn't add up, transactions that didn't belong, records altered after approval. Names that appeared and disappeared. When she asked questions, people told her to stop. When she didn't, they told her to stay quiet. The next file was an audio recording, a man's voice, low, calm. Dangerous in how reasonable it sounded. "You're smart," he said. "Don't ruin that by being curious." I felt my jaw tighten. Another audio clip, a different voice, female this time. "If you go to the police, they'll assume you're involved. Think about your father." I slammed the tablet shut. My hands were shaking again. That's when I understood the timing. The birthday gift wasn't sentimental. It was insurance. She gave me the tablet because she knew something would happen soon. Because once she was gone, someone needed to have the truth. And now I did. I spent the rest of the afternoon watching, listening, and reading. By evening, I was nauseous. This wasn't one bad decision or one bad person. It was a network, not huge, not cinematic, but careful. Quiet, protected by paperwork and plausible deniability, and my daughter had walked straight into it. At 6:40 p.m., my phone rang again. Same unknown number. I answered this time. "Marcus," a man said like we were old friends. "You should stop watching." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" I asked. "You know who I am," he replied. "You've seen me on the screen." I glanced at the tablet. "You're not in trouble," he continued. "Yet, but you could be." "You took my daughter," I said. "She made choices," he replied calmly. "Poor ones?" I stood up and walked toward the back door, checking the yard through the glass. "What do you want?" I asked. "For you to do nothing," he said. "Close the tablet. Forget what you saw, and if I do," there was a pause, "then you become part of the problem." The line went dead. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with the lights off, tablet on my lap, every sound magnified. Around 3:00 a.m., I found a file I hadn't opened yet, labeled simply, "Read last." Inside was a single document. "A letter, Dad, if this is open, it means I didn't get to tell you goodbye." My vision blurred. I'm not scared anymore. I was at first, but fear is a luxury when the truth matters more. Everything on this tablet is real, verified, backed up. Copies already exist. I exhaled sharply. If they arrest me, it's because I forced their hand. If they silence me, it's because I succeeded. "You don't need to save me. You just need to make sure this doesn't disappear." There were instructions below, specific, detailed, who to contact, what to send, when she'd thought of everything. Except how much this would hurt. At sunrise, I made my first move. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I called a number she'd listed under safe. A woman answered, older voice, calm. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said. "You know who I am?" I asked. "Yes," she replied, "and I know where your daughter is." My knees nearly gave out. "She's in holding," the woman continued. "They brought her in quietly, no press, no charges filed yet." "Why?" I asked. "Because they're deciding what story to tell." I closed my eyes. "What do I do?" I asked. "You follow her plan," the woman said, "and you don't talk to anyone else." By noon, I'd sent the first package, encrypted files, selective evidence, enough to make it impossible to bury. By evening, something shifted. News alerts popped up on my phone. Small stories, buried low, internal review, unrelated inquiry. I knew better, they were scrambling. That night there was another knock at my door. Not the police, two people in plain clothes. They didn't identify themselves. Mr. Hale, one said, we need to ask you a few questions. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. About what? I asked. Your daughter, he replied. And what she may have shared with you. I smiled, not because I was brave, but because I finally understood something. She hadn't handed me a tablet, she'd handed me a choice. And I'd already made it. I didn't invite them inside. The two people in plain clothes stood on my porch like they belonged there, like this was just another stop on a list. The man spoke calmly, the kind of calm that assumes compliance. May we come in, Mr. Hale? No, I said. The woman tilted her head. This will go easier if you cooperate. Easy for who? I asked. They exchanged a glance. The man smiled, thin and practiced. We're just trying to understand what your daughter was involved in. I leaned against the doorframe, keeping my body between them and the house. She was involved in telling the truth. The woman's eyes flicked past me, toward the living room, toward the tablet. You should be careful with assumptions, she said. Information can be misunderstood. I understand enough, I replied. The man sighed. Then you understand why this situation is delicate. What situation? I asked. You arrest my daughter without charges. You show up at my house without badges. His smile faded. Mr. Hale, he said quietly, you don't want to turn this into something bigger. I met his eyes. I think that decision was made before you knocked. There was a long pause, then the woman spoke. If you have materials that belong to an ongoing investigation, you need to surrender them. I laughed once, short, bitter. You mean the evidence she already copied? Her expression changed. Not anger, concern. That told me everything. They didn't know how far this had gone. Good night, I said and closed the door. I locked it, then I locked it again. My legs felt weak as I walked back into the living room. I sat on the couch and stared at the tablet, my reflection faint in the dark screen. She'd been right. They were deciding what story to tell. And they were running out of time. My phone buzzed. A message from the same woman I'd spoken to earlier. They came to you. That's confirmation. I typed back with shaking fingers. What now? Now we accelerate. She sent instructions. Precise. Urgent. There was a media contact on the list. Not mainstream. Independent. Known for verifying before publishing. There was also a second name. When I recognized from the tablet, someone my daughter had trusted, someone who disappeared from her life abruptly, I called that number. It rang once, twice, then answered. I was hoping you'd call, a man said. Who are you? I asked. Someone who didn't get arrested in time, he replied, and who's tired of pretending this didn't happen. He told me his story. How he'd worked alongside my daughter, how they'd both flagged the same discrepancies, how he'd been warned first. Then why didn't you help her? I asked. There was silence. Because I was scared, he said, and I regret it every day. He sent me files, more corroboration, more proof. The picture sharpened. This wasn't just about altered records, it was about leverage. People with authority protecting people with money, quiet favors, disappearances handled administratively, and my daughter had refused to look away. At midnight, I received a call from the holding facility. She has one call, a voice said. When I heard her voice, I had to sit down. Dad, she said softly. I'm here, I replied. I know, she said. They told me you'd try to fight this. Are you okay? I asked. As okay as they'll let me be, she said. They keep asking if I acted alone. And I asked. She laughed quietly. I tell them I gave you a birthday gift. My chest tightened. They know about the tablet, I asked. They suspect, she replied. But they don't know where the backups are. They exist, I said. I know, she replied. That's why I'm calm. There was a pause. Dad, she said, if they offer you a deal. They won't, I said. They might, she replied. And if they do, you need to promise me something. What? Don't take it, she said. No matter what they say about me. I swallowed hard. I promise. After the call ended, I sat in the dark, the weight of that promise settling in. The next morning, everything moved fast. A story broke online, not names yet, just patterns. Whistleblower detained amid internal review. Comments exploded. Questions followed. By noon, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. By evening, a lawyer I didn't hire showed up at my door. Mr. Hale, he said, holding out a card. I represent parties who want to resolve this quietly. Quietly for who? I asked. For everyone, he replied, including your daughter. He laid out the offer like it was reasonable. No charges, immediate release, non-disclosure. In exchange, everything disappeared. I looked at him for a long time. You're asking me to trade the truth for my daughter, I said. He didn't deny it. I stood up. Get out. He hesitated. Think carefully. I have, I said. After he left, I sent the final packet. Everything, unredacted, to the last contact on her list, the one labeled if they push. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A single message. It's public now. I turned on the television. This time it wasn't buried. Names were spoken, faces shown, and for the first time since my birthday, I allowed myself to breathe. Because no matter what happened next, they couldn't put this back in the box. The morning after everything went public felt unreal. I woke up to silence, no knocks, no calls, no strangers waiting outside. For the first time in weeks, the house didn't feel watched. Then my phone started vibrating, messages stacked on top of each other, missed calls, notifications from outlets I didn't recognize. My daughter's name was everywhere, not framed as a criminal. Framed as a problem. Sources say the detained analyst acted independently. Questions raised about data handling procedures. They were scrambling. I could see it now. When truth comes out too fast, people try to control the speed of belief. I didn't answer a single call. Instead, I waited for the one that mattered. It came at 9:14 a.m. Mr. Hale, a woman said. This is internal affairs. Your daughter is being transferred. Transferred where? I asked. To a different facility, she replied. For her safety. I didn't believe her, but I said nothing. 2 hours later, another call. She's being released, the same woman said. Pending investigation. I closed my eyes. When? I asked. Today. I sat down hard in the kitchen chair. When I picked her up, she looked exhausted but steady. Same calm I'd heard in her voice during that late-night call from Holding. She smiled when she saw me. You didn't fold, she said. Never, I replied. She hugged me tightly. For a moment, everything else faded. But peace doesn't come instantly after a storm. Outside the building, cameras waited. Questions flew. She didn't answer any. Neither did I at home. She slept for 12 straight hours. I watched the house while she did, pacing, checking locks I'd never thought twice about before. Every passing car made me pause. The next day, subpoenas started landing. Requests for testimony, requests for devices, requests for cooperation. We expected that. What I didn't expect was the apology. A man from one of the organizations named in the reports showed up unannounced. Middle-aged, expensive suit, nervous eyes. I just want to say we had no idea, he said. That's not true, I replied. He flinched. We knew something, we just didn't think that someone would expose it, I finished. He didn't answer. He offered money, quiet compensation, to help your daughter move on. I closed the door in his face. That night, my daughter finally told me everything, things she'd left out of the files. How they'd isolated her slowly, how they'd framed curiosity as betrayal, how every warning sounded reasonable until it was. They never yelled, she said. That's what made it worse. I nodded. Control doesn't always shout. 3 days later, the arrests began. Not dramatic, not televised, but real. A director resigned. An executive stepped aside. A compliance officer vanished from public view. The narrative shifted. Suddenly, my daughter wasn't reckless. She was misguided but well-intentioned. It made me angry in a new way. They wanted to soften the truth just enough to survive it. A week after her release, she was asked to testify. She didn't hesitate. I'm done hiding, she said. The hearing room was cold, bright, intentionally uncomfortable. She spoke clearly. She didn't embellish, didn't dramatize, didn't cry. She laid out facts like bricks. By the end, the room felt smaller. Afterward, a reporter asked me, "Do you regret not opening the tablet sooner?" I thought about that. No, I said. Because she didn't give it to me to entertain myself. She gave it to me when it mattered. The backlash came later. Online comments, anonymous emails. A letter with no return address calling her a traitor. She read them once, then deleted them all. I know who I am, she said. That night we sat on the porch together, the same place we'd eaten cake on my birthday. You know, she said quietly, I thought I'd lose everything. What did you lose? I asked. She thought for a moment. Silence, she said. I smiled. The investigation continued for months. Some people walked free, others didn't. Justice wasn't perfect, it never is. But it was loud enough to be heard. One afternoon, I finally powered down the tablet. Backups existed now, safeguards, protections. I handed it to her. You don't need me to hold this anymore, I said. She shook her head. Keep it. Why? Because it reminds me I wasn't alone. I placed it back in the drawer. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about how close I'd come to opening that tablet too late, about how easily a knock at the door could have ended everything differently. And about how sometimes the most dangerous gift isn't the one you open, it's the one you're trusted to protect. the world didn't go back to normal. That was the first lie I had to let go of. After the headlines faded and the cameras moved on, I expected relief to settle in. Closure, something like peace. Instead, everything felt suspended, like we were living in the quiet echo after a siren stops. My daughter stayed with me longer than either of us planned, not because she had nowhere else to go. Because she needed to remember how it felt to exist without watching every word. Some mornings, she sat at the kitchen table staring out the window, coffee untouched. Other days, she worked nonstop, filling notebooks with thoughts she said she didn't want to lose. "They took enough from me," she said once. "I'm not letting them take my clarity." The investigation widened, not quickly, carefully. Names that hadn't appeared before surfaced in small articles buried in business sections. People who'd smiled at charity events suddenly resigned to pursue other opportunities. No one said why out loud, but everyone knew. One evening, I received a letter addressed in careful handwriting, no return address. Inside was a single page. "You should have stayed out of this." I didn't show it to her. Not because she couldn't handle it, but because she didn't need to carry it. Instead, I drove it to the police station myself and filed a report. The officer glanced at the page and sighed. "You're not the only one." That scared me more than the letter itself. A week later, she was called in again, not as a suspect, but as a witness. This time, the room felt different, less defensive. More cautious, they asked her about timelines, decisions, pressure points. She answered without hesitation. At one point, an official asked, "Why didn't you walk away sooner?" She didn't get angry. She didn't get emotional. She just said, "Because I thought if I stayed quiet, I could protect my family." The room went still. Afterward, as we walked to the car, she looked at me and said, "That was the truth. I don't regret it, but I won't do it again." That night, she received a job offer. Not from anyone connected to the mess, from someone who'd been watching quietly, an organization built on transparency, on oversight, on accountability. She stared at the email for a long time. "I don't know if I'm ready," she said. "You don't have to decide today," I replied. She smiled faintly. "I already did, I just needed to say it out loud." She accepted. The backlash didn't stop, but it changed. The threats softened into whispers, the whispers into silence. People who once avoided her now asked for her perspective. Some wanted forgiveness. Some wanted validation. She gave neither. "You don't get rewarded for noticing the truth late," she said. "You just get a chance to do better next time." I watched her become something new, not hardened, but precise. A man from one of the exposed organizations tried to meet with her privately. She declined. When he insisted, she forwarded the request to investigators. That was the moment I realized she wasn't healing by forgetting. She was healing by refusing to bend. Months passed. The case fractured into smaller ones. Some led to settlements. Some led to charges. Some vanished into bureaucratic fog. Justice didn't arrive as a single event. It arrived in pieces. One afternoon, as we cleaned out the garage, I found the birthday wrapping paper still folded in a box. She laughed when she saw it. "I never meant it to be your gift," she said. "I know," I replied. "It was insurance," I nodded, "but it also turned into something else," she continued. "It showed me I could trust you with something heavy." I felt that settle deep in my chest. Trust isn't loud. It's quiet, deliberate, given when there's risk. That evening, she moved into her own place. Not far, close enough that I could hear her laugh through the phone without worrying. On her first night there, she called me. "Dad," she said, "I set up my tablet." I chuckled. "Did you?" "I did," she replied, "but this one's empty." "Good," I said. She paused. "Thank you for not asking me to be smaller so things could be easier." That's when it hit me. The hardest part of this hadn't been the fear. It had been resisting the urge to compromise. To trade truth for comfort, to protect peace by pretending. We didn't do that. And because of that, the final reckoning was still coming, not in courtrooms or headlines, but in the one place it mattered most, inside her. The last call came on an ordinary afternoon. No warning, no tension in the air. That's how it always is when something finally ends. You don't hear it coming. My phone rang while I was watering the lawn. I wiped my hands on my jeans before answering. "Marcus Hale," I said. "This is the district clerk," a woman replied. "I'm calling to inform you that all remaining charges connected to your daughter have been formally dismissed." I didn't speak right away. Dismissed is a word that sounds small for something that once filled every corner of our lives. "Thank you," I finally said. When I hung up, I stood there longer than necessary, hose still running, water pooling at my feet. It was over, not erased, not undone, but finished. I drove to my daughter's apartment without calling first. She opened the door wearing old clothes, hair pulled back, eyes tired but clear. I didn't say anything, I just nodded. She understood immediately. Her shoulders dropped, not in relief, in release. We sat on her couch in silence for a while, the kind that doesn't need filling. I thought I'd feel lighter, she said eventually. You will, I replied. Later, she smiled. You've always known how this works. We talked about small things after that, her job. The view from her window, a neighbor who played music too loud but apologized every time. Normal things, that mattered more than I expected. Weeks passed. The world moved on the way it always does, quickly, indifferently. People stopped asking questions. Articles stopped appearing. The names involved faded into background noise. That was justice's flaw. It doesn't linger. Healing had to be deliberate. She started therapy, not because someone told her to, but because she chose it. I don't want to carry their voices into my future, she said. Some days were harder than others. A raised voice in a cafe would make her tense. A sudden knock would freeze her in place, but she noticed now. She named it, and then she let it pass. One evening she came over for dinner. I noticed something small. She brought the tablet, the same one. She placed it on the table between us. I think it's time, she said. For what? I asked. To let it go. I didn't touch it. She picked it up herself and powered it on. The screen lit up just as it had that first day. She scrolled once, then again, then she selected everything. And deleted it. I watched her hands, steady. You sure? I asked. She nodded. The truth doesn't live there anymore. She shut it down and handed it to me. I don't need it, she said. And neither do you. I placed it in a drawer and closed it gently. That night, after she left, I sat alone in the kitchen and thought about birthdays. How I used to measure them by candles and gifts and noise. Now I measured them by something else. Who shows up, who answers, who holds the truth when it's heavy. Months later, on my next birthday, she came over again. This time, she didn't bring anything. I didn't forget, she said quickly. I just didn't want to give you something you'd have to protect. I laughed. We ate cake. We talked. We watched the sun go down. No sirens, no knocks, no secrets. As she stood to leave, she hugged me, longer than usual. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? I asked. For not asking me to explain myself when it mattered most. I swallowed. Parents like to believe they save their children. The truth is harder and better. We don't save them. We stand still when everything else tries to move them. We answer the phone. We hold what they trust us with, and we don't let go until they're ready to take it back. As I closed the door behind her, the house didn't feel empty. It felt complete. Because some gifts aren't meant to be opened. They're meant to be honored. And sometimes, the bravest thing a parent can do is believe their child before the world does.